Cheers buying a whole new claim is a massive risk, but this time Parker walked away with more millions than he had ever imagined. This season has been nothing short of a wild ride for Parker Schnabel and his crew. The decision to purchase Dominion Creek was the big gamble of Parker's career, a move that could either cement his place as one of the top gold miners in the Yukon or leave him drowning in financial ruin. Dropping a staggering $15 million on a claim was nerve-wracking, but Parker had trusted his instincts, believing that the ground held more gold than anyone had dared to dream. As the weeks turned into months, the tension had been relentless. Dominion Creek was a mystery, a high-risk, high-reward bet that could make or break the season, but as the final stir approached, one thing became crystal clear: the risk had been worth it. The ground had delivered far more than expected, and Parker's team had been relentless in their pursuit of every last ounce. What had started as an ambitious 5,000-ounce goal had quickly turned into something far bigger. The numbers kept climbing, the SLO boxes kept running, and suddenly the idea of hitting 7,000 wasn't just a dream, it was within reach. Our best week so far. Yes, I stand corrected. The best weeks so far. Yeah, smoking week. Now, with time running out, there was only one thing left to do: push the limits and get as much gold in their pockets as possible. For the last 5 days, their two wash plants, Lucifer and Big Red, had been running at full capacity, tearing through pay dirt at both Australia Creek and Dominion Creek. Every bucket of dirt, every hour of operation, every late-night repair, it had all led to this moment. The final weigh-in was here, and everyone on the crew knew that this would be the defining moment of the season. The team gathered around, the weight of months of effort hanging in the air. Parker turned to Mitch, his right-hand man, eager to hear his thoughts on how the week had gone. Mitch, always blunt and to the point, didn't sugarcoat it. It had been a tough, stressful week, keeping everything running smoothly, managing breakdowns, and making sure every piece of equipment was where it needed to be had been a challenge. But there was something else in his voice too: pride. This season had been a trial by fire for many of the crew members, especially the newcomers. Tatiana, Evan, and Jacob. At the start of the season, they were just rookies, learning the ropes, making mistakes, and figuring out how to keep up in one of the toughest jobs in the world. Now they were key players, running machines, managing plant operations, and proving they had what it took to mine alongside the best. Now the payoff was finally here. Parker and his crew gathered for one of the most important moments of their mining operation, the final gold weigh-in. The energy in the air was a mix of excitement and exhaustion. The final total was 70. Applause. 7,381. That is unreal. After months of relentless digging, wash plant breakdowns, and endless hours of hard labor, it was time to see just how much gold they had managed to pull out of the ground. The weigh-in begins with the gold from Australian Creek. Parker and his crew carefully zeroed out the scale, making sure everything was set correctly. Then, one by one, they started adding the gold. The numbers climbed quickly: 20, 40, 70, 100. The team watched as the scale continued to rise all the way up to 172 Oz. But that wasn't all. There was another solid 300 still to count, bringing the total to 6.35 pounds of gold, a haul worth over $1.2 million. Parker grinned. This was his biggest cleanup of the season so far, and it was a massive confidence boost. Mining wasn't just about luck, it was about planning, hard work, and knowing how to get the most out of the ground. If they could keep this up for another few weeks, they'd be on track for an incredible season. But there was still more gold to weigh. The next test was Roxanne at the Money Pit, and this one was going to be interesting. Roxanne was Parker's newest wash plant, and it had a lot to prove. For years, Big Red had been the top performer, bringing in an impressive 370 ounces of gold per week. But with Big Red now out of commission, all eyes were on Roxanne to see if it could match or even surpass that number. There had been some challenges along the way. The team had made adjustments to the feed rate, and water levels, fine-tuning the plant to get the best results. And now, this thing's probably running at 20% over capacity and it's spilling everywhere. You just got to be patient with it. You got to work through it, and patience is one thing I don't think. Parker has much of the first few runs had been a bit tricky, but now Roxanne was finally dialed. And it was time to see if it could deliver. The gold started pouring onto the scale. 30 Oz 50, 100 ohms, then more 150. 180, 200. That was just from the first pan. The team then added another batch of gold, and the numbers continued climbing. When everything was counted, the total for Roxanne 46.50, just under 250 ounces of gold. That meant Roxanne had generated nearly $120,000 in gold per day, proving that it was just as good, if not better, than Big Red. Parker nodded in approval. It had been a risk to switch wash plants, but now it was clear that Roxanne was capable of handling the job. As the final numbers were added up, the crew realized they had just hit a major milestone. For the entire week, their total gold count came to 72.38, over 700 ounces in just 7 days. That much gold was worth more than $1.04 million, making it the biggest haul of the entire season. Chris arrived as Parker and the others were going over the latest gold count. Tyson had just wrapped up work at Australia Creek, and it was time to see the results. It had been a tough site to mine, but the crew had put in solid work, and now the numbers would tell the full story. Parker had set a huge goal, 7,000 ounces for the season. To stay on track, he needed at least 300 ounces this week. As the cleanup from Australia Creek was weighed, the numbers climbed 20 ounces, then 40, then past 100. You see that out there in the corner, just a big puddle of gold on the edge there. That's really cool. God, seeing this right off the bat, I bet we might find some really nice ones. Oh yeah, we get down deep. There's nothing. Oh yeah, the pile of gold kept growing, crossing 200 and creeping closer to the goal. Finally, the total settled at 282.30. 000, a strong way to wrap up work at Australia Creek, which had now produced over 1,000 ounces in total. The big question was whether they'd come back next year. Parker wasn't ready to decide just yet. There was still a lot of work left to do, and whoever mined it next would have their hands full, but for now, they had made it work, and that was what mattered. The next cleanup was even bigger. Roxanne stepped in to help lift the heavy pan of gold, and the count began again. 100 ounces, then 180, then past 200. The gold hit the pan with solid clunks, and the numbers kept rising. By the end, it reached 382.05, bringing the season's total to an incredible 6,544. That was a huge number. More than 3,676 had already come from the claim, proving that Parker's 15 million gamble to buy this land had been a smart move. But time was running out. There was only one wash plant still running, and everything depended on the ground staying rich and the weather holding up. Now it was time for the final weigh-in. Parker only needed 174 more ounces to hit his 7,000-ounce goal, but with how well the money pit had been producing, there was a chance for a much bigger total. Everyone gathered outside waiting for the results. The first numbers rolled in 40 ounces, then 80, then 120. The count kept climbing past 140, 170. Then 200. By the time the first set was done, they had hit 300. But there was still more to count. I mean, just last week, Big Red had its best week ever, and it just topped it. This is the best week of Red's history from day one. It's just wild how much effort and stripping went into it, and how fast you're getting through it. Every hour of low thing probably represents a $1,000 worth of stripping or something right, or $2,000 worth of stripping. The last 2 jars held the final gold haul of the season. One by one, the ounces added up: 50, then 100, then 150. When the final tally was in, the total stood at $55,435, worth over $1.1 million. It was the biggest weekly gold cleanup of this season from any single wash plant. Parker's risky decision to buy the claim had paid off in a massive way. The season had been full of challenges, but in the end this place had turned out to be exactly what he'd hoped for: a gold mine worth calling home. Relief hit Parker like a wave as the final numbers rolled in. It had been months of backbreaking work, endless hours, and more than a few close calls, but now the results were in, and they were nothing short of incredible. At the start of the season, he had set a bold target: 5,000 of gold. It was a high bar, but the team had crushed it. Then they pushed even harder, raising the gold to 7,000. That number had seemed almost impossible at times, but now, standing at the end of it all, the final tally was undeniable. The season total had soared past expectations, landing at a jaw-dropping 7,381. The gold was worth just under $15 million, almost enough to cover the entire cost of Parker's massive claim at Dominion in just a single season. It was a moment that didn't just mark success for this year, but secured the future for years to come. Parker stood there, taking it all in. The weight of the achievement settled on his shoulders, but so did something else: gratitude. This hadn't been a solo effort. The team had worked day and night through breakdowns, weather delays, and the constant stress of keeping everything running. They had given they all, and now, as the dust settled, it was time to recognize that it was proof that all their efforts, sacrifices, and long days had led to something huge. This was a turning point. With a haul this big, Parker wasn't just surviving in the gold mining game, he was thriving. And looking at the team around him, he knew one thing for sure: every single person here had earned their place, and when next season rolled around, they'd all have a spot waiting for them. Now Parker's crew digs through the dirt, battles freezing temperatures, and works insane hours. But are they striking gold when it comes to their paychecks? Let's break down exactly how much these miners are taking home, and whether their grueling job is worth the reward. I really want to thank you all. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. And I hope that every one of you guys wants to come back, because every one of you guys has a spot here next year. The latest season has given us some staggering numbers. Parker's crew managed to unearth an incredible gold worth around $14.7 million. Sounds life-changing, right? But the reality of their salaries is a bit more complicated. Mining isn't just about shoveling dirt. Every crew member plays a crucial part. There's the foreman, keeping operations smooth; mechanics, making sure the machines don't break down; and heavy equipment operators, handling the big rigs that dig through gold-rich ground. Each of these roles is well paid, but the job isn't nearly as glamorous as it seems. For a base salary, a miner on Parker's crew typically earns around $14,000 for 6 months of work. That might not sound like much, but this isn't your average 6-month job. These workers cram about 18 months worth of labor into half the time, grinding through over 12-hour shifts with only 2 days off every 12 days. The sheer physical and mental toll of this lifestyle makes every dollar hard-earned. One interesting twist is that Parker's crew might actually be paid in Canadian dollars, adding an extra layer of complexity due to fluctuating exchange rates between gold prices and currency values shifting. What they take home can vary. Hard work doesn't go unnoticed. Parker rewards his crew with performance bonuses if the season goes exceptionally well while the exact amounts are kept. Under wraps, these bonuses are known to be substantial, giving miners an extra incentive to push through the grueling conditions besides salary and bonuses. The crew also gets some solid perks to make life a little easier during the mining season. They're provided with free housing and meals, which helps them save a good chunk of their income. For miners who spend months away from home, these perks go a long way in making the job more manageable. And then there's the TV factor. Being on Gold Rush means certain crew members can earn anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 per episode. With over 20 episodes in a season, some miners walk away with a hefty paycheck. However, not everyone in the crew is a star, so these earnings vary from person to person. Most crew members start at around $28 an hour, grinding through intense 75-hour work weeks over the course of a 25-week season that adds up to about $65,000. Before bonuses, more experienced miners can see their hourly wage rise to around $34, which when combined with overtime and performance bonuses can lead to some impressive paychecks. But make no mistake, this money isn't easy to earn. Working 12-hour shifts, often at night, in unpredictable weather conditions is physically exhausting. The schedule is relentless, 12 days on followed by just 2 days off, repeated for months on end. It's a brutal grind, and not everyone can handle it. The living conditions are cramped, noisy, and far from comfortable. Privacy is nearly non-existent, and every day is a battle against harsh weather, tough terrain, and constant equipment breakdowns. The crew needs not only physical strength but also serious mental toughness to keep going day after day.